Welcome to Happy Hour, brought to you by Best Damn Bookkeeping. As you guys did multiple locations, how did you go about it? What did you like about it? What did you hate about it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great question. And I think the first thing that comes to mind is like, you'd be surprised how far you can actually saturate a market, right? So it's like, so why are you packing up and going to copy and paste somewhere else if you're like literally 12% saturated your local market, right? And I think there's entirely different avenues that you can pursue as a business owner or an entrepreneur. There's new service offerings you can do inside of your own exterior cleaning business. There's new locations. Like there's always opportunity, right? I think you also got to consider like, why am I doing this, right? Am I doing it to boast that I have multiple locations, like almost like an ego stroke? Or, am I doing it out of necessity because like I've just hit this local turf so hard and there's nothing left here because I'm such a dominant player here that I'm kind of just tripping over myself, right?
Yep. I don't, it's funny you bring up the ego thing because I think when I first started, like I came into it and that was just the vision that we had, right? And I supported it. Like I voted for it and I had business partners and we had a board. And so we were like, we're doing this thing. And in hindsight, it was all fucking ego. Like at the time, I wouldn't have said that it was because I was blind enough to not realize that it was, but it was all to say we were doing a thing, right? Yeah. I think strategically we knew better and we still did stupid stuff and overpaid. Like it was all acquisition based. And so it was about getting assets under management and and I think it's a thin line and it's easy to fool yourself into thinking there's something else behind it. But big time in hindsight, I'm just like, man, it was a really shitty strategy. And our egos convinced us that it was a good strategy, but it was very much, hey, look at what we're doing.
Yeah, no. And what a big person of you to recognize that. Like self-reflection is a tough thing for us humans to do, right? And I admit, like, I'd say there's definitely a component of that for myself as well. I think also too, it's such a tough thing being a young entrepreneur because like you get rewarded for being like motivated and like going out there wanting to change the world. And sometimes I think you don't know where to channel that energy, right? Yep. So like, to be fair to young Dan, like there's always a bit of that too, of like, I want to do big things. I just don't know necessarily what the outlet of that intention is, right?
Yep.
But it's tough. Multiple locations I don't think it gets talked about often enough, especially because like, first and foremost, you got the chicken and the egg problem, right? Mm-hmm. Do I hire people who on the best of occasions, even locally, is a tough thing to master and put them there first? Meanwhile, now we already have overhead churning up. Or do I do this awkward commute if you're only a few hours away? And we tried to do that for one other location that ultimately totally burned down.
Yeah, just like you can't, it gets too dependent on you. And that's not scalable.
Well, and callbacks suck on the best of days, let alone when it's in the next city over, leading into a weekend, right? Like that's a good way to mess with, your time and your stress levels, right? So it's a really tricky thing. I would always recommend I feel like that kind of 1 hour drive time out is a great place to start. Right?
It's a little bit, if there's a population center there, it's a little bit too far for you to serve from your main location, but it's not so far that you can't still save the day.
If you got to put the firefighter hat on, like life goes on and you can go save the day.
It's going to happen. Happen.
Exactly. So the other thing too is just maintaining good culture is very tricky to do on satellite locations, especially because oftentimes you have a main location and then you have a satellite and the satellite feels like they're a freaking satellite, right?
They know it. Yeah, they know it.
Yeah, they know it. They see you one day a week and, everybody else gets like a morning meeting with you and get to talk about their life's plan and, just all the rest of it, right? So maintaining that culture is a really tricky and challenging thing to do in those other, satellite locations.
Hey, home service heroes. Thank you guys so much for tuning into our home service happy hour content today. I sure hope you learned a little something, and I sure as heck hope that it was entertaining. If you did find it fun and entertaining, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel for more cool, fun, entertaining business content. And speaking of which, stay tuned. There's a little more here and a little more right here. Check it out.